Howdy, everyone. Tad Stevens on the Denver Score podcast, where we focus on business and stakeholders in the Denver and Front Range area. Today, I'm talking with Yolanda Stokes, who is a spokesperson and public information officer for the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Assistance Field Operations Center West, which is located in Sacramento, California. This office is responsible for responding to federally declared disasters in the 24 states west of the Mississippi and U.S. territories. Yolanda began her career with SBA working as a disaster loan officer, and she later transferred to SBA's Public Information Office. Over the past 16 years, Yolanda has responded to many of our nation's largest disasters in support of SBA's disaster recovery mission. Yolanda, great to have you here, and let me know if I missed anything.
I think you've got it all covered. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon, Tad. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Really super you can be here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Marshal fire, which, if anyone's listening outside of Colorado, was just north of Denver. Came on super fast, very unexpected, and a lot bigger than anybody thought it would have or could have. So to start with, I'd just like to start with the first question of what type of assistance is available to individuals that suffered losses from the fire. And as if you're in this area, there's a lot of them.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for having me for this podcast. Yeah, the Small Business Administration, as many people may already know, they may know our flagship product, which offers loans to folks like you or I who want to start a business. But in disaster scenarios, a lot of people are not familiar with the programs that we have to offer. And as you mentioned, the Small Business Administration, along with FEMA and a lot of our federal family, are here in Boulder to support the folks that were impacted by the Marshal fire. I should also add that the declaration covers not only the fire, but also folks that suffered damage from straight line winds. So the declaration included the fire and straight line winds. So that's an important mention for folks that may have not sustained fire damage, but also had damage from the straight line winds.
Yeah.
So the Small Business Administration, we're offering low interest disaster loans. That is our form of federal disaster assistance. These are loans. And we can help a homeowner out with a low interest loan. The interest rate for the homeowner is 1.438%. That homeowner can have eligibility up to $200,000 to repair or replace their primary residence. And it does have to be a primary residence. It can't be a vacation home or second home. And I do know just from looking at the news and the media that these were folks' homes. This is their home. These were not vacation or secondary homes.
These were neighborhoods.
These were homes.
Yeah.
So, and that same homeowner is also eligible on top of the $200,000 to repair or replace. They're also eligible for another $40,000 for their content that was damaged. And we know just through media and through the news that we also saw a lot of burned out cars. So cars and vehicles are also included in that personal property amount of $40,000. So that homeowner may have eligibility $240,000, and there may be some additional monies available for mitigation measures. So homeowner, again, $200,000, low interest rate of 1.438%, another $40,000 for your content and your vehicles as well. Now, for my renters, we don't leave our renters out. And we do know that there are some folks, quite a few folks that were renting homes. So renters are eligible for that same interest rate of the 1.438%, but the renters are eligible for that $40,000 personal property component, also including their vehicles as well. So again, low interest disaster loans, not just for businesses, but for homeowners, renters. We do have loans for our nonprofit organizations and businesses of all sizes. So now I'll speak to what's available for our nonprofits. Again, low interest disaster loan. 1.875% for my nonprofits, churches, schools, anyone that's a nonprofit. We know that nonprofits are very unique. They all have specific needs, so we don't leave our nonprofits out. Nonprofits, again, 1.875% up to $2 million based on what their needs are. Not everyone needs a $2 million loan.
Right.
And then that same loan threshold, the $2 million for businesses of all sizes, home-based business, mom and pop, Yolanda's crocheting shop, until our larger businesses. So businesses of all sizes fall under our business umbrella up to $2 million for 2.83%. And as you know, these are interest rates that we can't find anywhere else. So the Small Business Administration provides these low interest loans because we want to make them attractive. Folks have gone through a disaster. If you or I go to our bank, we can't get interest rates of 1.438%.
No, not at my bank anyway.
Not at my bank, right? And we can't get interest rates for 1.875 from our nonprofits, and business owners be hard pressed to find an interest rate better than that 2.83%. So business owners up to $2 million. And I want to mention again that, these business owners who were impacted by the fire, homeowners that were impacted by the fire, but also we have a cluster of folks that were impacted by the winds. I mean, we're talking, I think they said upwards of 150-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah,
unbelievable. So there's lots of wind damage out there. So we don't want folks to try to guesstimate on, what they may be eligible for. And quite frankly, we, in these types of disasters, we see folks who may say, I had a few shingles blow off, I'm good. I may not need any assistance. I just tell everybody, take advantage of all the programs that are available to you. Don't feel like, someone else may need it. There's funds out there to help you with this recovery. Don't try to guess at what's needed. I also like to tell folks in these scenarios, because we know many folks had homeowners insurance. And so many people are already dealing with insurance and filing claims and adjusters and such. You don't have to wait for your insurance to settle. Go ahead and complete that loan application. And if it turns out that your insurance gives you everything that you need and makes you whole, you just simply cancel the SBA loan. But in the meantime, I don't want folks to miss out on what may be available. So I always tell people, don't wait for that insurance to settle. Go ahead and start that SBA loan application, and let's get that application processed. Sometimes you may even get a first disbursement from SBA before you get a first settlement on that insurance loan. So that's an important piece that I'm happy to share and encourage folks to go ahead and start that process.
Yeah, and I want to jump in and mention also that living in Colorado, a lot of people, we do have high winds here. And I like what you mentioned. I want to point out what you mentioned about the straight line wind loss or possibility of loss, is that you don't always see the damage that those winds do.
Exactly.
You said a few shingles. Well, yeah, you can lose a few shingles, but you can lose the decking underneath the shingles as well.
Exactly.
So as you said, go ahead, look at everything, and then if you need to, take advantage of it. So if I was in that situation, how would I go about applying for the disaster assistance, whether I'm a homeowner, a business, or a nonprofit?
Well, good question, because you may have heard that the County of Boulder has been tremendous. As we know, this declaration, the governor submitted an expedited request to get this declaration. He submitted that declaration or that request on December 30th, and President Biden approved that declaration, expedited declaration, on the 31st. So things were moving really, really quickly. But the county and the city officials were tremendous in setting up what they're calling a disaster assistance center, or you may hear an acronym, yet another acronym, DAC. But it's the Disaster Assistance Center that's set up in Lafayette. And so that center was opened immediately last weekend. So we've been open coming up on 10 days. And so, it's incredible. If you haven't seen it already, we basically have I call it an insurance village set outside in the parking lot. So folks can go directly to whoever their insurance. We have representatives from all of the insurance agencies there who can help folks with, finding their insurance deck page. Who has documentation when your home has been burned? Right. So they've got representatives on site at the Disaster Assistance Center. So you start with your insurance, and then you're going to be referred inside, and there are tables everywhere for representatives from county, federal, state, everyone there to help our folks that were impacted by the fire. So you may start with FEMA. I always like to tell my homeowners and my renters, first step is to, of course, if you have insurance, start with your insurance. Next step is to register with FEMA. Now, FEMA has some grant assistance programs available to homeowners and renters. They don't have programs for business owners, so they're going to automatically refer business owners over to SBA. But for homeowners and renters, important step is to first register with FEMA if you have not already. You can do that by visiting the Disaster Assistance Center. You can also call 1-800-621-FEMA. And FEMA also has an application that you can download, and you can get a registration number. So registering with FEMA is kind of the first step in, opens up all of the umbrella of federal programs, registration for FEMA. So even business owners, I think we're going to have a lot of folks, like we mentioned earlier, that had home-based businesses. So why not register with FEMA first, right? So go ahead and get that registration process. FEMA will do kind of a preliminary screening of income. They're not going to do a full financial analysis, but just a preliminary screening based on the information that the applicants provide. And then they're going to refer you over to SBA. And again, if you're a homeowner, I don't want you to be put off by that name, the Small Business Administration, and think that it's only for business owners. Please go ahead and complete that application with SBA. There's absolutely no obligation to take a loan if you don't need it. Again, as we mentioned, if your insurance makes you whole and you have all of your needs met, you simply cancel the loan. But I don't want people to miss out on any, I call them buckets of financial assistance.
Right.
It's going to take a holistic approach really for the disaster survivors to get what they need, right? So they're going to need some insurance. Some may need a little bit of the FEMA grant assistance, and many will need SBA disaster loan program. So we don't want anyone, I'd say, to miss out on any of those buckets, and they're revolving because you don't know when the insurance is going to settle. So why not go ahead and get in queue for that SBA loan? And again, if you don't need the money, cancel it. Or let's say SBA approves you for $100,000, your insurance comes through, a FEMA grant comes through, family, friends pitch in, and you don't need that $100,000 loan. You can say, you know, SBA, I only need $50,000. Can I reduce that loan amount, thereby reducing my payment?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You have that flexibility as well.
Okay.
And then on the flip side,
super.
you know, we know what construction costs are going to be tremendous, right? So we know that.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody's
going to come at the same time. I mean,
exactly.
If you had trying to rebuild 1,000 homes at once, there's going to be a strain in that area. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So on the flip side, you know, it's probably going to take, realistically, it's going to take some time to rebuild. But as folks begin to rebuild, they may find that they need additional monies, maybe above and beyond what SBA initially approved them for. Well, there's some opportunities to ask for an increase. So my point is there's a lot of flexibility in the SBA disaster loan program, and I don't want folks to be nervous about taking on a loan. We know that particularly for our business owners who've gone through COVID, may already have an existing economic injury disaster loan with SBA, and they may be feeling like, can I get yet another loan for economic injury or physical? Well, the answer is yes, you can. This is a whole separate disaster, believe it or not. Separate disaster, different needs. So we don't want anyone to miss out on any opportunities for assistance from this devastating fire. Okay,
super. Great information. What's the deadline? How long is this going to be open?
Well, typically in the presidential disaster declaration, the deadline is normally 60 days. So with that in mind, the deadline, if you've had any kind of physical loss, any level of physical damage, the deadline is March 1st. Quickly approaching, you know, January just got here. We're already at January 12th.
Right, yeah.
I feel like I just said Happy New Year. But it's March 1st, but it's not uncommon for the state, particularly in this type of devastating disaster. There may be folks still displaced. It's not uncommon for the state to request an extension. We don't know that we're going to get that extension, so I always encourage folks, apply right away. For one, the applications are processed the first in, first received. So we want folks to get their application in queue, at least get it in position to
get in line.
Right.
Yeah.
Get in line, exactly. So we don't want anyone to miss out. And then for any business owner that suffered economically or they lost revenue, we give them usually 9 months. Again, I'm not encouraging any business owner to wait for 9 months. So the deadline for economic injury for this disaster is September 30th. So again, I'm not encouraging any business owner to wait that long. Please go ahead and get that application process started. We mentioned that you can visit the Disaster Assistance Center, which is open Monday, actually 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday. They're open 9 to 7. We've seen quite a bit of traffic there. As we mentioned, there are representatives from the Humane Society to the insurance broker to unemployment to the IRS. There's so many representatives there to help folks recreate their documentation if they need it. Health and Vital Services are there, just representatives from all types of local agencies that can help. So it's really legitimately is a one-stop shop for our disaster survivors. But as we know, and we're hoping that folks continue to move forward. I know that the kiddos have returned to school in some districts, and so it may be a little tough for folks to get over to the Disaster Assistance Center. If they have the availability of the internet, certainly, you know, folks are still displaced, so that may not be viable. If you cannot get over to the Disaster Assistance Center, you can apply online. You can go to sba.gov, click on the disaster assistance link, and you can go ahead and apply online. I'd like to share with you that SBA has already, in this short time, approved 102 disaster loans. We have approved a total of $17.9 million in disaster loans, and most of
Okay.
those are to homeowners. We
All right.
just approved our first business loan today, and that's on the metrics anyway. I'm sure there are plenty that are in queue, and so those
Right.
numbers, we're seeing a steady uptick daily on those approval numbers. But $17.9 million already to our disaster survivors for this Marshall fire is pretty incredible.
That is very impressive and very fast. So kind of related to that is, are loans available to surrounding businesses that have no damage physically from the fire or the winds, but who suffered a loss of revenue? So say like if there was a business that serviced that area, all that business is now gone, at least temporarily. Hopefully it's going to come back. Does that qualify?
Absolutely. Good question. As we mentioned earlier, there are some businesses who, again, already have an existing what we call economic injury disaster loan, or EIDL. A lot of people are familiar with that,
right?
That acronym as a result of COVID. We have that same type program now available for folks that were impacted by the Marshall fire, and again, straight line winds. So the counties, now go ahead and read them. The counties that were included in a declaration for the EIDL program or the economic injury program include Broomfield, Colorado counties, of course, Broomfield, Gilpin, I hope I'm saying that right, Grand, Jefferson, Larimer, and Weld. Those counties, along with Boulder County, any business in those counties is eligible to apply for economic injury. Again, up to that threshold of $2 million if they need it, with the interest rate of 2.83%. And we know that there will be lots of businesses that had not only the physical damage, but had economic injury on top of physical damage. And then we'll have another pocket of businesses who just had economic injury. And so again, I'm encouraging any business who's suffering, and sometimes it's a little hard to see right away what the bottom line impact of this, the road closures and such. And that's why we give business owners for economic injury, we give them 9 months. But again, I wouldn't encourage anyone to wait. The idea of the economic injury disaster loan program is to be able to provide those businesses that don't see any customer base, they have reduction in revenues and income, to provide them with 3 to 6 months of income, sometimes up to 9 months of income. And it's probably a little too soon to be able to determine how much dollar-wise that impact from the Marshall fire and the straight line winds is. And that's what our loan officers are there for. They're going to take a look at your financials from the past 2 to 3 years, try to see some type of trend and see what your needs are to be able to provide you with that working capital to pay your bills, to pay your staff, to pay your employees, to get back to normal to the best that you can. So the goal is to get everyone back to pre-disaster. And pre-disaster, of course, was COVID, which is a little unusual, right? For us right now, pre-disaster was COVID, but for many of our businesses here in Colorado, they had already opened. And so, the fire did not help at all in some of those local businesses. I know that there were several businesses on the news that just a pocket full of business owners who already had some type of business interruption insurance, but I know that's not the case in many of our businesses, For the larger scale businesses, they have insurance, sophisticated insurance and insurance to provide for those type of scenarios. But our mom and pop shops, they don't have that type of insurance. And so that's what the SBA disaster loan program is here to help with.
Okay, super. That is all very excellent. Thank you very much for all of that and for being on the show today. Really appreciate it and taking the time to share. Is there anything that you'd like to wrap up with?
Yeah, I would just like to encourage everyone, if it's convenient, of course, certainly, the idea is to provide that face-to-face assistance, to our disaster survivors. They've been through enough, and they're very, very intimidated by this whole process. And there's a lot of information coming. They hear about insurance and what they need to do over here. They know that FEMA has a program. And it's a grant program, but it's not going to make them whole. And so I just encourage everyone to take advantage of that disaster assistance center that's there in the community. We don't know how long they're going to continue to be there in the community, but they are there 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have experts there that can walk you through the process. So don't be intimidated by the process. We have experts customer service reps, and loan officers. And we also have a business recovery center that's set upstairs. SBA has what we're calling a business recovery center with 6 representatives, experts upstairs on the second floor that can help walk our business owners through the application process as well.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we have all of that information, location, map, directions, all that to that center in the show notes of the podcast and in the description, wherever we happen to post the audio or video, to make sure that
Very
people have at least somewhere to start so that they can get there and do that. So again, Yolanda, really appreciate your time. Thanks everybody for watching or listening or just being here. Do take advantage of all these resources. As Yolanda mentioned several times, don't wait. Go get in line. I mean, get your application, get your forms, get all that stuff filled out. Do it quickly as you can. Get in line, because there's going to be a line for a while. So do that. And again, thanks everybody for listening. And again, thanks Yolanda for being here and helping out as you do. And until next time, this is Tad Stevens with the Denver Score podcast. Bye for now.
Bye for now.